It's national title or bust for Ohio State. After just one college football playoff appearance in the last 3 years and no Big Ten title appearances in that same span, the Buckeyes went all in on the transfer portal and NIL to ensure a massive 2024 season where anything less than a national title or maybe a national title appearance would be viewed as a failure. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today to break down the Ohio State Buckeyes, the Ohio State. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to some of the best spread picks in the entire country. Spread picks that have beat out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 6 years. Spread picks that were over 65% in our best bets section last year. Spread picks that are over 63% in our 6-year career. You do not want to miss out on these picks, guys. Some of the best picks are one of the lowest price in the country. Go sign up for those today. Become a member of our GE Nation, as well as everything else down in the description that will be there for you to help this season be the best one possible. So Ohio State, guys, look, we know they're always one of the best teams in the country. They are one of the most talented teams in the country, one of the most well-coached teams in the country, and they have fallen short each of the last 3 years. And it really has come down to that Michigan game. They are 33-6 over the last 3 years, 11-2 in each of those seasons. But they have been in college football playoff contention, Big Ten title contention. Going into the last week of the year, each of the last 3 years, they have fallen to Michigan each of the last 3 years and have fallen short of their ultimate goal. Yeah, they still slipped into the playoff a few years ago, narrowly lost to Georgia, but nonetheless, this has not been the stretch that the Buckeyes have wanted. It's not good enough. This year has to be good enough, and I think it will be. You take a look at the offense. Last year was a massive decrease. Went from 44.2 points per game in 2022 to 30.5 points per game in 2023. So nearly 2 touchdowns worse than they were the year prior. They went from 491 yards per game to 408 yards per game. They lost a lot of talent. We know that. This year, they reload on that talent. They add in Will Howard from Kansas State, threw for over 4,700 yards and 48 touchdowns in his career with the Wildcats. They retain Travion Henderson, who rushed for over 900 yards and 11 touchdowns last year, but added Quinshon Judkins in from Ole Miss, who rushed for 1,100 yards last year with the Rebels. In the last few years has been one of, if not the best running back in the SEC. So they've got a very good quarterback. They've got 2 very good running backs. And they've got a great wide receiver core. They kept Emeka Egbuka, who had over 500 yards and 4 touchdowns last year. Jeremiah Smith, going to have a massive season in Columbus. 4 offensive linemen do return. And then they went out and added Alabama center Seth McLaughlin. This is a loaded Ohio State offense that will look a lot similar to the one we saw 2 years ago. Defensively, you can make the argument that Ohio State has the best defense in the country. 9 starters are back from last year's unit. 9 starters. They do lose their top 2 tacklers. Okay, no big deal. Jack Sawyer is back at defensive end, 6.5 sacks last year. Tyleik Williams also paired alongside him on that defensive line. The secondary only gave up 146 passing yards per game. It was one of the best secondaries in the nation. Denzel Burke now returns back there. Caleb Downs, Alabama's #1 tackler, he's back there as well. This might be the best secondary in the entire country to go along with the best overall defense in the entire country. Again, Ohio State, all in. All the chips are in. They've got to reach their goal. And look, they're going to make the playoff, right? If the 12-team playoff had been implemented these last 3 years, the Buckeyes would have been in it every single year. And then who knows what would have happened. Maybe they would have won a national title. Maybe they would have been playing for one. I mean, it's just the 4-team system did them no favors. This year, they're going to the playoff. We all know that. We feel confident about that. Is what can they do once they get there? If you look at their schedule for Ohio State this year, the season ultimately comes down to 3 games, right? It's the 3 big dogs. Oregon, Penn State, and Michigan. Those are the 3 big games. They have to go to Oregon and Penn State. So the 3 biggest games they're scheduled, 2 of them are on the road. Not ideal. Looking at the schedule right now, I'm going to tell you, they're going to start 5-0, right? I mean, it's almost like we just need to predict those 3 games and that's it, because they are way better, significantly better than all of their other opponents. Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, Michigan State, and Iowa. They will win all of those games handily. And you'll go, wait, 2 of those are conference games. Talk about them. All right, I'll talk about them. Against Iowa, they've won 16 of the last 19 games. This is a team that both these teams defensively will be one of the best in the country, but Ohio State owns a significant offensive advantage. The Hawkeyes won't stand a chance. Same for Michigan State. Oh, it's in East Lansing. Who cares? The Spartans are in a major rebuild under Jonathan Smith. 10 starters back defensively. That's great. Still no match for this Ohio State offense. And Michigan State's offense, which will struggle mightily, will be lucky if they can get more than a touchdown on this defense. So they win those handily. Then they go on the road to Oregon, 5-0, maybe the game of the year. It's one of the most highly anticipated games of the year. We are looking at a potential top 5 matchup. If everything goes the way we believe it will, these are going to be a battle of 2 unbeaten teams, potential top 5 teams. Game that has major playoff implications, Big Ten title implications, so much on the line in Eugene. And I love this Oregon team. You got a national championship rematch here from the first year of the playoffs, so how fitting is that? These two teams now in the same conference. First year of the 12-team playoff, a rematch of that national championship from the first year the playoff was ever around. A rematch of the 2021 game where Oregon stormed into Columbus to win 35-28 as 14.5-point underdogs. Can Ohio State return the favor now 3 years later and spoil Oregon's homecoming? Can they spoil Oregon's game at home? They're not going to. Oregon's too good, too talented. Dillon Gabriel coming in from Oklahoma is absolutely phenomenal at quarterback. They've got a deep running back core, one that can match Ohio State's. They've got a deep wide receiver core, one that people could argue is better than Ohio State's. And they've got 9 on defense, starters coming back with a loaded secondary led by Jabbar Muhammad coming in from Washington, Kobe Savage coming in from Kansas State. This Oregon team kind of did the same thing, went all in. Phil Knight giving them a blank check with the NIL money, going all in to try to win the Big Ten in their first year and to finally clinch a national championship. This Oregon team is loaded. You factor in how crazy Autzen Stadium is going to be, how crazy Eugene is going to be on October 12th. Give me the Ducks to win this game. It's going to be close. It's going to be a dogfight, but Oregon simply has just a little too much. I think they're better offensively. Ohio State slightly better defensively, but home field advantage, the big difference maker in this one. Coming out of the bye week, they'll beat Nebraska. I'm not worried about that, especially at home off that week of rest. There's no risk for a hangover there. On the road at Penn State, Happy Valley. It's tough. We know that. It's one of the best environments in all of college football, and if this is the whiteout game, it's going to be even better. But I cannot pick against Ohio State when they play Penn State until Penn State finally gets the win over the Buckeyes. Back in 2016, they pulled off that massive upset, and I always say that was the game that we kind of knew Penn State was back. That was the game that put them back on the map and has made them perennial Big Ten title contenders every year since. But the Nittany Lions have been unable to get over the hump. They have not beaten Ohio State since that big upset in 2016. If there's going to be a time to do it, now's the time, and I still don't think Penn State can do it. It's going to be close. It's going to be a great matchup. A loss here for Ohio State spells trouble for them in terms of a Big Ten championship appearance. I still think they can get to the playoff, but I don't see them losing in Happy Valley. Penn State simply doesn't have enough. Does the offense take the step forward they need? If they do, can they go up against this stingy Ohio State defense that, again, might be one of the best in the country? Can Penn State's defense, which will be very good, shut down all the athletes that Ohio State has? The games have been close, we know. I mean, about an average of 8-9 points per game typically. Last year was a 20-12 game that Ohio State won. But they've won 7 straight over Penn State, multiple of those coming in Happy Valley. They're not scared of Happy Valley like other teams are, and Ohio State will get their 8th straight win over the Nittany Lions. They'll cruise past Purdue. They'll cruise past Northwestern. They'll cruise past Indiana. I mean, none of those teams are really going to put up much of a fight against the Buckeyes, especially with 2 of those being in Columbus. So that sets up the one-loss Ohio State team against a potentially undefeated or one-loss Michigan team, or more. You know, never know what Michigan's going to have here. The reigning champs, but lose so much. Regardless, it's the game. It's the game that will have major implications on the Big Ten standings this year. The game that could have major college football playoff implications on whether a team gets in or not, or at the very least, who might get to host a first-round game. So much on the line in the game in the season finale. And Ohio State, once again, finds themselves as a one-loss team. Last few years, they have found themselves either as a one-loss team or an undefeated team entering the season finale, and they've lost 3 years in a row. They snapped that streak this year. They will not lose to Michigan this year. Michigan simply, to me, lost too much. They lost their head coach. They lost their quarterback. They lost their leading rusher. They lost some of their top wide receivers. They lost a lot on the offensive line. They lost a lot on defense. Michigan, this year, their success hinges on their quarterback from Alex Orji. It hinges on the success of the offensive line. That's what it comes down to. But I don't have enough faith in this offense to come into Columbus against an Ohio State team that is hungry, not just to end the streak, but sees themselves as potential national champions. They're not losing 4 in a row to Michigan. It's just not happening. Now at home, with this defense, they shut down Alex Orji. The offense struggles a little bit against Michigan's defense, but eventually it'll wear thin because I don't think the Wolverines will be able to sustain long enough offensive drives to give their defense a break. Ohio State wears them down. They win this game by at least 10 points, and they finish the year at 11-1. And with only one conference loss on the road at Oregon, they should find themselves in the Big Ten Championship, finally returning after a pretty long hiatus. They might get themselves a rematch against Oregon in that Big Ten Championship game. Obviously, that game is just going to be for a potential first-round bye, so the stakes will be very high there. But regardless, the winner of that game goes to the playoff. The loser of that game goes to the playoff, assuming Oregon, if that's who they play, is a undefeated, one-loss team, whoever that may be. Regardless, Ohio State will make the 12-team playoff. Ohio State, the chips will pay off in the regular season. It's going to be a remarkable regular season, but that's not new. That's what they've been doing under Ryan Day. It's what happens in the postseason. It's what happens in the final few weeks of the season against Michigan in the Big Ten Championship and in the new 12-team playoff that will essentially show whether or not this gamble, whether or not all of this money, all of these transfers fully paid off. But this team is one of the best in the nation. They are loaded from top to bottom. There are not many teams in the country that can hang with them. There are not many teams in the country that can beat them. The Buckeyes are true national title contenders, and this could be the year they finally break through and get over the hump under Ryan Day. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to leave your thoughts about Ohio State down in the comments below. Continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos as we continue to progress through the rest of the Big Ten and every other college football team as we inch closer and closer to the start of the season. Check out everything down in the description below, including our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to those expert picks, home to those newsletters. We want you to take advantage of those and sign up today to become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.